So we're going to run through a bunch of stuff relating to quantum. There's a little bit of a presentation thing that I put together. There's a few slides on the features and then the different consoles and various things like that. I don't want to take up too much time running through a boring slideshow, but there's probably some fundamental stuff that we should touch on, and then kind of jump into the console after that and pick away at some of the more details and operational kind of stuff. So I'm going to jump back to the share again and do that for the moment. Is that good? You guys got that right? Very good. So features. In the SD series, there are typically 3 points where you can pick off signal to go to an aux send or a few other places inside the console, and that's pre-mute, pre-fade, and post-fade. So no matter what you're doing, you always have the dynamics and the EQ and the filtering at the top of the channel. That's always in the audio chain, no matter any one of those 3 pick-off points. You're going to have that information, or that is going to be affecting what goes out to the aux. So in Quantum, what they did is they added 3 more to the to that array of pick-off points. So you can actually take one halfway between the EQ and the dynamics if you want. You can take one that's pre-EQ, which is the big one that everybody was asking for. It's just simply not possible in the SD series. But with the added power of the quantum processing, it is. So, and they also added one which is pre-processing, which comes ahead of the high and low pass filters. So you have now 6 options where to pick off your inject point for the aux send, and that can be on every aux on the channel. Each one can be whatever you want. And that's kind of what it looks like. Some of you are used to the SD series would remember that if you go to the top of the actual aux output channel, you can pick the position that you want across all channels for that aux to be derived from. So there's the 6 points. So if you wanted to make aux 1 all pre-processing across the whole board, this is where you go to do it. The other thing that Quantum has brought to the table, because it's 7th generation FPGAs, and there's more than one in the console, there's 3. That gives a lot more power for processing. So what they've done is they've made an alternate to the effects rack. There's another rack now that's called a spice rack, and this is going to be for more advanced plugins, if you will, something that would be more akin to a plugin. The first one that they released is called Chilli 6. So that's got 4 frequency bands. So it's a 3 crossover points, 4 flat frequency bands, and also 2 parametrics that you can change the shape of. You can also change the shape of the release slope of the compressor, and you can listen to each individual band, and you can bypass or engage any one of the bands just like you can with the 3-band on the SD console. So that's the first release of a more advanced type of processing that's going to be going into Spice Rack. And there's going to be more to come. Oh, did I? Did it? So that's not. Oh. I'll go back to Spice Rack then. There. My apologies. My screen actually showed it, but it wasn't going out. Okay. So that's it. That's the Spice Rack. The next thing that they're also doing with the quantum processing is mustard processing, which is an extra set of processing that you can add to a channel. You still have the standard SD processing, which is the 4 bands of parametric and the comps and gates and whatnot. and then you can add this to a channel on top of what's already there. So you can add amp modeling. So there's two kinds of preamp modeling. There's just a basic tube, and then there's also an amp model. So the amp model gives you a couple of different stages. It basically mimics a guitar amp. So you can change from odd to even harmonics, and you can change the bias and the drive, and there's a little high frequency boost in there that you can get a little more of the upper harmonics out of. So you can dirty things up on a channel if you wish. The next part of Mustard is compressors. So there's 4 compressors. Then they're all based on some of the unique classic analog circuit designs. The first one is called Classic, and it's basically derived from the early compressors that just use a straight feedback loop, a tube compressor with a feedback loop to alter the gain stage through the tubes. So that's the original. I think actually the first compressor that was actually developed was like that. The next one was optically coupled, and the reason why optical coupling comes into play is that it's a way to take a true RMS signal and use that to trigger the compressor. So there's a little light inside, and it shines against an optical sensor, and that's how an optocoupler works. So there's an optically coupled one. There's a FET-based compressor as well, so that's a faster responding compressor because it's FET. And then lastly, there's a VCA style, and a VCA style is all solid state. So there was a chip that was used to derive the RMS levels, and then that in turn drives a voltage controlled amplifier, and that's kind of the final stage of analog compressor evolution, if you will. So there's 4 of those. And then in addition to that, there's also a gate and a /ducker. You can change whatever mode you want to run this in. So it can be a gate or a ducker. And it's quite similar to the SD series gate and ducker, except the parameters for the attack and release are a little different. So this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. This is the thing that really separates the quantum consoles from all the other ones, is the concept of nodal processing. So what nodal processing does is it allows you to take the standard EQ and dynamics that exists on the SD channel, or in this case, the quantum channel too, not the mustard, just the standard. And it allows you to add that to the node where the aux comes off the channel and goes to the main aux send on the console. So now you can EQ and process each individual drive to each mix differently, if need be. So combined with the earlier pickoff points that you can take from the channel, you could drive an aux, say, from the pre-EQ of the channel. So that leaves the channel EQ just for the front of house, and then you can then EQ and compress or do whatever you need to do to the signal going to the aux completely separately from what you're doing for front of house. No more duplicating channels. I've had to do that, and I know a lot of people who have. The practice was basically you duplicate a channel and you'd use that channel to drive the monitor mixes, and then the original channel to drive front of house. So you can do whatever you want for each scenario. Incidentally, both the True Solo and the nodal mixing are both patented by DiGiCo. So I don't think we'll see that. It's going to be something that I think is going to stay pretty unique to DiGiCo ongoing. So what True Solo does is it basically takes the processing, the EQ, and on the actual aux output of the console and punches that into the solo bus. So when you're listening to a given channel, if you're using True Solo, it actually includes any EQ that you have on the final stage of the console on the way out. So you get to hear exactly what you're sending to the performer. You don't have to guess. You have to remember, oh, I've added a bunch of top end to that mix or taken it away. So again, True Solo is another kind of innovative thing, and all these are possible because of the added horsepower that Quantum gives us. I'm going to run down the models real quick. There's the SD7, which was the first Quantum console. That was launched in 2018, and that's a list of the top of the slide is a list of the Quantum features that you get with the Quantum 7. And there's also an upgrade path. So if anybody has an SD7, the upgrade is you get a new pair of engines for your console and some new hardware inside the console that relates to the management of the power busing that feeds those engines. So it's a fairly major physical upgrade. And you can take your 7 and you can bring it up to date to be current. Same thing applies for the SD5. You can move that to a Quantum 5, and that's an engine replacement and also a power harness and power board replacement as well. And that's the numbers relating to what a Quantum 5 is capable of. Last year, DiGiCo released the Quantum 338. So it has a certain number of mustard processing strips that you can have access to and 64 nodal processors. And the standard features listed at the bottom. The most recent Quantum console is the 225. So that one's a single screen console. Spice rack is 6 monos, 24 mustards, and 32 nodal processors. All these Quantum consoles also have 2 DMI slots, so you can utilize the wide array of DMI modules for expanded I/O of many different types. Since they're both the same size and they both sit around the same price range, we wanted to just give you an idea of what the difference is specifically between the two desks, the SD12 and the Quantum. So these are features that both desks have. The base level SD12 is 72 inputs and 36 buses. There's an upgrade to that will take it to 96 and 48. But the base level console has the same channel and bus count as the 225. The SD12, of course, has two 15-inch touch screens. They're a membrane touch screen and a dual set of controls. So it's actually can be a dual operator console. And it runs on, I believe, the 4th generation of FPGA. So it has an FPGA chip and a couple of Shark chips that are doing all the effects. And the Quantum has a 17-inch multi-touch screen, so it's like an iPad-style touch. It's not a membrane touch. It's got 3 large-scale 7th generation FPGAs, and that's where the horsepower comes from to enable it to do all the stuff that it can do. And then there's also a multi-purpose mount, and you can add an optional second screen to it, which you see in the picture there. That's what the mount looks like, just the bare mount on the console. And there's a couple of different things that you can do with the mount. One of them is you can get a laptop mount to go on that. That's a slightly different view of the laptop mount. And then there's also the option to add a Clang controller onto the surface of the console, which is another new thing. And once we get our hands on a Clang controller, I think maybe the next session we do might be a run through of all the features of that particular little gem. That's it for the presentational stuff. So if anybody's got some questions or anything you want to throw out regarding any of that or anything else for that matter, fire away.
Ian, you got one that said, can the optional second screen be touch?
Yes, there is a facility to make it a touch screen. It hasn't been fully implemented yet. There's a path where that may happen. We're not sure when. The downside is that there are no physical controls on that side of the console. So if you were going to, if it does happen and you can put a touch screen there, I would probably think that you would put your master screen over there and have touchability on the master screen, especially with respect to the True Solo and the nodal processing, because you kind of use the master screen to access those features, whereas you keep your channels on the actual main screen that has the associated physical knobs to control the channels. Anything else? Come on.
Ian, I think the first slide, you had the standard SD with the pickoff points.
Yes.
Was there also a quantum with pickoff points?
There was.
Yeah,
Did I miss that one?
I think the graphic was.
Well, you know what? Then I will escape and go back to that one.
Ian,
Yes.
if Pete is pointing something out as the operator of the call, he cannot be heard. So it might be an idea for you to repeat what is appropriate of what he's saying, so everybody understands what's going on.
Apparently, we missed this slide, the second part of this slide. As I was going along, it didn't translate out over Zoom. So the question was about the quantum. There's existing SD series pickoff points for the signal sources, which are pre-mute, pre-fade, and post-fade. And then in addition to that, with quantum, you also get to pick from between the EQ and the dynamics as a source, and pre-EQ and dynamics as another source point, and then also pre-processing. Processing in DiGiCo terms is the high and low pass filter at the very top of the channel.
So Ian, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that slide didn't come up, Ian. So if you're looking at something, it appears that the slide is up showing the additional quantum. So
that is.
I was confused about that myself.
That is me. I didn't go back and do this. I can't see the Zoom controls when I'm in Keynote. So my apologies. Let's do this again. That one. Quantum, you see it now?
We see the basic one for the existing SD series. There we go.
And that's the next one. Apparently that's the part that didn't translate out over Zoom for some reason. The transition didn't update, which is odd, but so there we go. And then that's the pick-off points at the top of the aux channel. So if you wanted to make aux 1, for instance, across the entire console, pre-mute or pre-processing, that's where you would go at the top of the aux channel and change it there. And you can also change it on an individual aux per channel basis as well.
Ian, we've got a question. Will you be able to take a file done on a quantum and bring it back to an SD?
I believe you can using SD convert. You can remove, you'll lose all the quantum bits for that, but all the consoles are running the same 12. This one here is running 1280, version 1280, so it is all the same version of software.
Lyle asks, are any further upgrade kits being planned for other SD consoles?
No. The fundamental difference is it's a completely different engine structure and power requirement. As these chips advance, their power requirements drop. The voltage drops, the heat dissipated from them gets much less. So that's why, we're able to do more with less, so to speak. So the two consoles with the removable engines, the SD5 and the SD7, they were upgradable. But anything other in the SD series will not be a quantum upgrade.
And one more, the pre-processing pick point, is it still post low pass?
Is it still post the low pass?
Yeah.
No, it's between the input, the trim. It's literally between the trim, and you have one that's before both the high and the low pass, and then the pre-EQ one is after both the high and the low pass.
Sorry, I didn't see that on the screen. Thank you.
That's no problem.
So Lyle, there's no bad questions.
That's right.
No, but there is bad vision.
We have one from James. He says, how many channels of nodal processing does the 225 have? Can you go back to that one, Ian? Or?
Yeah, I can jump back to that one.
We also had one from Samantha that says, does the Quantum ship with a step stool so short people can still see the band beyond the console? And my response is, if you remind us after you submit an order for a Quantum, we will certainly send you a step stool.
We could custom make a step stool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
for Samantha, no problem.
The answer to the first question, incidentally, is 32. The 225 has 32 nodal processors and 24 mustard processing strips.
So just to clarify on those, like each nodal processing channel is every time you do, like every channel per aux, when you select nodal processing, you use up one of those, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Each time you engage a node.
Right.
And a node would be per aux send per channel, yes.
Just trying to decide which one I'm going to make Soundbox by for my next tour.
We all know the answer to that question. It's already well in process.
Perfect.
Are you going to show us the console now, Ian?
Well, I was just going to say, if there's no more questions, I'm going to jump over to the console software and we'll just play around with that a little bit. So I will go ahead and do that and get rid of that. And I'll reshare this. All right. So hopefully you guys have that. Nope. No, you should.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So what I've done is I've set up, it's a lot clearer to show the offline software over Zoom than it is to try and put a camera over top of the console and do it that way. And video resolution on Zoom is not the same as screen share resolution is on Zoom. So this is what I did. I took I'm going to close this so it's cleaner. There we go. I took one section of the console and I have a channel that is me coming in here, which is coming out to my little Focusrite thing, and that's what you're hearing. I also have a channel that has some noise on it, and I did a little EQ on that channel. I did a little boost down around 200 on the channel EQ itself, and then I added a node to this channel. So I've got two windows happening here. This window is the channel view, or the left-hand side of the Quantum 338, and this is the master, and I've just linked the software live to the console. So if you want to add a node to an aux, first you have to know what channel you're on, so you have to select the channel. So if I say selected, this channel over here, then I could come in here and I would go add, and I would go yes, and there I have this little purple P that just showed up. If I wanted to add a node to the second aux, and pick the second aux and go yes, because at that point I'm in the add mode. If I turn off add mode, now I can come back and I can select one or the other. And as I do that, what that does is it brings up the node. That is the nodal processing for aux2 on that channel. If I go here, click on this one, that is the nodal processing for aux1 on aux1 channel 5, right? So you need to kind of have access to the master screen to be able to bring the nodes up onto the screen where the channel is. So that's why I say if you had an expansion screen, a touch screen, you could put the master on that.
I found it really helpful, Ian, to build a macro in viewing to bring the node screen up.
Right.
So, and you can manipulate every one of those auxes from that one screen. The only thing being is it might look funky if you don't have something selected. It comes up as a blank. As soon as you select something, it populates.
Yeah, if you don't have a channel selected, this aux row, this row of aux does not populate. You just get a blank window. But yeah, you can have that pushed up on the screen with a macro. I was fiddling around earlier today to see if I could do something fancy with a macro, and I wasn't able to actually do it. So I'm not even going to tell you what I was trying.
Oh, okay.
I was fiddling, trying to make it do something, and I haven't had enough time on it yet to come up with an exact solution. But
I'm pretty sure that the names also show up on the macro screen, so that it'll tell you the channel, or not the channel, but like, for instance, if you have it named kick, it'll go kick aux5.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It'll change. This will change according, and so will that.
Yeah.
The naming, like all the way across DiGiCo, the naming transfers from, the channel to everywhere where that channel is referenced. That name follows through. So
per application. Yeah.
Ian, could I just ask everyone's indulgence for just a quick moment? Could you go to your channel strip and add, just for fun, a 250 milliseconds of delay? And
right now, I already have 50 on it right now, actually.
Oh yeah, well, bump it up to 250. I mean, might be excessive, but I think everyone's probably noticing that that Ian's not in sync, which certainly makes sense in Zoom land.
You know what? That's my bad. I turned it off earlier and I forgot to turn it back on. That's with 50 milliseconds. Is that better?
But it's good. It's good, but still not right. Anybody want to take a guess at what it should be?
Let's play delay.
You'll have to keep moving your mouth.
Yeah, I'm going to change the number.
105 milliseconds.
You know what?
It's better now.
That'll be easier. That'll be easier to do. Here, look at the console. That'll be easier to do if I actually lean over the desk.
Do we have to get closest to the number without going over?
That's right. If we get closest to the number without going over.
Well, we don't want to start. We don't want to start going backwards in time.
No, there's no undelay.
Undelay.
That's something that we've always wanted to do. That's 122, so I don't know if that feels better or not. Pa 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 pa.
Okay. Undelay in a future update.
Anyway, I'll put it back. Let's leave it there. It's probably closer than it was anyway. So that's how you add nodes to a channel, and you have to open this little. It's under layout, and it's aux nodes. That's how you get to it. Under layout, aux nodes. I'm a little far from the screen, and I'm half blind, so. So that's how you get to the aux node control panel, and I also have the solo bus open, and we can go into true solo. If we hit this button, even if I close that, if I hit that button, that window opens up, which allows me to. Oh, someone's looping. Is that Donovan? Thank you for muting. So I'm going to PFL just my channel, the noise channel. So there, you should have some noise. And I'm just gonna, hopefully you can there when I pop this EQ in. And then if I open the node for that channel, back to that window. Thank you. And I can also solo the node, which includes that EQ that I put in there. And then if I come back to the master screen, oh, actually, let me show you this first, because this is my, that's my aux channel EQ, which you're hearing now too. Back to the channel. It's the node. So if I take true solo in and out, oops. There. As I kick true solo in and out, I'm actually adding in the EQ on the aux output onto the solo bus so I can hear what I've done on the aux output as well as what I've done on the channel and on the node itself. Make sense? So as far as all the mustard stuff goes, on any given channel, you can choose to enable it or not. And you'll see where I have it active on my channel. I have a little bit of a compressor on my vocal. You can engage it on another channel, and when you go in, you can open up the tube preamp, and you can choose whether it's this type or that type. And then once you turn it on, it becomes active, and that counts for amounts on the console. Anytime you make any of it active, dynamics, it will show up as an instance. And you can change the type between the 4 different types of compressor by doing that, and you can engage the comping gate / ducker as well if you want. And that's how you get into the mustard and turn it on and off. And that's on top of the existing SD EQs and compressors. It's in addition to. It's not a choice whether it's either or. Originally, when I jumped onto this console, I thought, oh, I have a choice. I can either do this one or this one, but it's not. You can actually do, like on my channel, there, that shows both are active. You guys got any other thoughts or queries? I'll turn off this noise. How's that? Sorry.
So Ian, can you turn
Yeah.
just turn mustard off and on with the actual switch at the top of the aux? You have to select the SD to turn it off, don't you? So yeah, it's
to turn it off.
Yeah, you have to select SD.
Oh, you basically you're choosing to view the mustard, or you're choosing to view the SD.
Okay.
And then once you go into it, you have to be, you'd be viewing the mustard, and then you would go into it to turn it off or on.
Okay, I was just having
or not.
Yeah, I was just having an issue. finding the select button because that screen that just popped up seemed to be right on top of the switch, the select view switch. Is that accessible by any of the encoder buttons down below?
No, I don't think it is.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's an option to do it on or off. I think you have to actually do it on the surface by touching.
Right.
You know, that basically just changes your view is all it's doing. It's
Right,
changing
and
the
you
view
turn
from
it on.
SD to mustard and back.
Right, and you just
if
turn
you
it on
choose
once
to
it's in
turn any
view.
one of them on, it becomes an instance of mustard on that channel.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was just my issue was where it was actually sitting.
Where it was sitting was obscured by something else?
It looked like it was sitting right over top of the switches, like of the view switches.
Once you turn it on, then you get the active indication above the button.
Can you move that window, that pop-up window?
The one above,
like if you said, Terry, that it's blocking it, when you select mustard,
yeah,
can you drag the pop-up window around?
Oh, you're thinking the you're thinking
there it is. There, yeah.
Right, the EQ. Yeah, the EQ is it comes up in the same place. I see what you mean. The EQ comes up in the same place as the standard EQ does.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. It is. It's up over. It lays right over top of the channel, but you can tell which one you're on because the two of them look completely different.
One side. Yeah.
And one of them has the funky knobs, and the other one has the standard. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
Oops. EQ, the standard looking knobs, so you can tell which EQ you're actually fiddling with by the look of the interface. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
And just like all the other DiGiCo stuff, it's available on all the output channels, all the matrix outputs and the aux outputs and the groups and all that as well. And one thing I should probably talk about a little bit that I didn't is when you change, if you go to second function, that's still the same way to change your auxes. So that's from post fade to pre fade to pre-mute to mid EQ dynamics and pre EQ dynamics and then pre-processing and then back to post fade again. So that gives you the 6 choice spaces. So if I go to an insert, if I look at this insert, I have some selections here too. So I can do pre-EQ and dynamics, which is basically where that insert is in the channel, but I can't do mid and it can't do pre-fade. I can go to post-fade or I can go to pre-processing as the pick-off point. So that is available. If you want to do something different than that, then you have to go to the bottom one. And this one gives you pre-fade and post-processing, but doesn't give you the other two. So the one that you can't do on an insert point, you can't insert in between the compressor and the EQ. That's not available. So this one gives you the pre-fade plus the other two. And then this one gives you the pre-EQ and dynamics plus the pre and the post. And if you do direct outs, you don't get a choice. The direct outs are still exactly like they always were. It's the bottom of the channel, just like you would expect. There's no way to do a direct out that is earlier in the channel than the bottom of the channel, which is post fade.
Ian, there's a question in here. Is there a place to see the remaining nodal processing allotments?
No, it's just like back when we used to have a limit on on multi-channel comp and dynamic EQ. When you try to do it, it'll tell you you've run out.
Question
That's
on
another
latency.
reason. It's another reason why I recommended the overview screen or the macro screen for viewing. You can actually see how many you're using.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just by glance. They're active. They're different color when they're active.
Oh right. I see what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see how many you have left.
You can count them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's 8 across and 4 deep or 6 deep, something like that.
Ian, a question on does mustard nodal processing add any significant latency relative to channels without it?
No. It's all the time through. The only time that you add latency is if you physically add another signal path through the console, i.e. you go through a channel, through a group, then to the master. You're adding the latency of that group to the overall throughput of the console. Nothing you do on a channel changes the time that it takes to go through the channel. It's already pre-allocated processing time.
Along the same vein, Sean is curious about system load when nodal processing is heavily active. Any concerns with stability?
No. The way DiGiCo builds these is all the processing that is available on the channel is already allocated, if you will. It's not something where you decide to do something on one channel and it goes and robs processing from another section of the console. All the processing is dedicated in there and in the chain, whether you're using it or not.
Question about nodal processing again. Can it be controlled on and off using snapshots? Example, if for only one song, I need to split off and EQ something for a specific mix.
Yes, the nodal stuff, it does show up in the snapshot scope. And it also shows up in presets. If I make you'll notice that mustard is in the presets. Oh, you know what? That's one I don't have an answer for. You stumped me.
James Bundy gets a Gare hat.
He does.
And a follow-up.
I just ask because, yeah, if there's just limited nodal processing channels available and you want to just, kind of conserve them, if you have those specific instances, if you can turn it on and off following your snapshots, I guess. Yeah, you could do that.
I'm just quickly rolling down through to see if there is there it is there. Nodal processing. Right, so I could go EQ in from to, So yeah, I can bring them in and out with a macro. So there it is right there. Nodal processing from channel 1 to 1, EQ in, and I can make that an on or a toggle or whatever I want. So yeah, there's full control of the nodal processing engagement or adding or subtracting based on macros. So yeah, good question. Didn't think of that one earlier.
Ian, inherent latency across all channels?
Haven't measured it. I would say probably better than the SD12, which I think is 1.1 milliseconds at 96K. Throughput, analog in to analog out. I would expect this to be faster, but I haven't measured it yet. I haven't seen a spec for it yet either.
Does the copy audio function still send signal right out to Maddie from the preamp with no processing?
Yes. Yeah, copy audio functions the same way.
Anyone else have any questions, or did I miss any in the chat?
Oh yeah, I usually run my solos through matrices. Will you still get the true solo before it hits the matrix?
That's exactly what I'm doing right here.
Okay, perfect.
I'm mixing my microphone and my solo bus through a matrix to the Focusrite. So yeah.
All right, anything else? Jeff, do you have anything to add, or it's been about 50 minutes, so.
Nope, I could just say something about the latency though. Depends on the cards you're using. If you're using the new 32-bit cards, we're seeing under a millisecond, so somewhere between I think 750 and 800 microseconds of analog in to line out. But depends on what cards you've got there. If it's 32-bit in, 32-bit out, you'll be in the high hundreds of microseconds. So pretty quick.
Well, I hope that was informative. I hope you guys got a lot out of it, and if you got any other thoughts or queries, just fire us off an email or give us a call.
Actually, we got a question from Andrew there. Did you see that one, Pete?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do now. Go for it. See it.
Yeah. So, any plans to integrate parallel processing paths within the channels, i.e., a mix knob on each channel compressor?
Sorry, I don't follow. What? Maybe just turn on your mic and ask me.
Yeah, so I guess the mindset I would have is like, to be able to do parallel compression on an individual channel, say like a vocal or a kick or whatever, just on the channel itself. So i.e. you would have your mix of full dry compression or no compression, and like be able to toggle that on a per channel basis.
No, because you'd have to have a second signal path to do it.
Right.
It still requires
Right.
two signal paths. I mean, there's two ways that people do that, and one of them is to drive it to a group, and in that case, you want to drive it to a pair of groups and compress the groups if you're bundling things together in a group. Or if you say you just want to do it on the kick, then you have a compressed kick channel and a non-compressed kick channel, and you could link them together in a multi-channel and put them on the same fader if you want, and then break them out if you had to. But no, to do that, it requires two separate signal paths. I mean, I suppose you could kind of futz it by doing a nodal processing thing, but that is also going to include an aux because the node goes to the aux. So the aux being a bus is going to take some time.
Right.
So you wouldn't be able to send it out a node to an aux and then combine it back with the original without being slightly out of time. So yeah, no, I would say two channels or two groups is still where you're going to go to do that type of processing. Yeah.